everyone. This is the regular fiscal court meeting for October the 28th, 2021. This is our work session, and we welcome all of you here tonight as we begin our work session and go through our process of deciding issues that affect our community. We're going to start off with the invocation led by Father Peter Dodema from the Church of the Ascension, and this is actually 2 times in a row, and this is unusual, and we're very honored to have him back again. Thank you, Reverend and Father. We appreciate it, and we also appreciate the great work that the Church of Ascension does for our community.
Thank you. Let us pray. Father, we lift up the judge and all members of the court, all the officials here. We ask for your peace and clarity upon them as they make decisions that affect our community. May they be guided to wise, long-term decisions that are best for all of us. And may they be able to rest with the decisions they've made, knowing they have done their best to care for your people. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. So good to see you, and God bless, and hope that over the holiday season, if we don't see you, that everything goes well. And once again, we appreciate God's work that comes to our community from our churches. Thank you. Okay, we are now ready to go into and talk about the minutes from our October the 14th meeting. Are there any questions about the minutes from our October 14th meeting that we need to discuss before we move forward? All right, there's seeing none there. The next item on the agenda is authorization to approve the county clerk's payment of election expenses to the board members. Andrew, is Mr. Hancock on?
I am not seeing Clerk Hancock with us.
Okay, the expenses are $1,430. Right, Tambra?
That is correct. And there's also something in your court bill reports for each of those.
Okay. All right. So each
Judge, this is something we've talked about in the past. This right here, this is something we've all talked about in the past that he was going to be bringing to us.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what we were doing. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. Thank you. If no other discussion, we'll move forward. The next item is the first reading of an ordinance amending the operation of County Fiscal Court, Chapter 30, Administrative Code, Purchase and Contracts, Section .120, Small Purchase Procedures of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances by setting a fixed minimum bid amount. Mr. Sparks, you want to give a little history on why we're bringing this back up?
This is just to cure that inconsistency, y'all. We've observed it several times. It's reared its head several times. It was 3 weeks ago, and the court directed that inconsistency to be removed. I have done so with a very simple revision. If you'll look at your book, it just simply eliminates that statement, less than, or the amount specified by state law for bid purposes, which had the date. So that will lock in forevermore $20,000 consistent with 120 and the prior sections. So that was what y'all wanted to do. If you choose to do it, that will be your bid level or your bid minimum level, notwithstanding emergencies and professional services. From this point forward, clearly and precisely, without any need for interpretation or discussion.
I thought we were having the minimum moved to 30,000. Where did I get that?
That was also for discussion at one point, ma'am. The minimum for state law under state law procurement is in fact 30,000. The court has had issues with that previously, and it was discussed and it was not moved and it was kept there. But there is an inconsistency because, as you see, it's got a date and it's benchmarked to a separate statute. So certain members of the court believed it was appropriate to have a bright line rule as opposed to a moving benchmark.
Oh,
So
makes sense. Okay.
I know that the time before, department heads were kind of interested, were like the idea of moving it from 20 to 30. Would any of the department heads like to say anything about that? I'll open the floor to the department heads if they want to say anything. Chief Hutchison or John Mitchell, Robert. Robert, it probably doesn't affect you that much. Maybe Jeremy. You want to say anything?
Judge, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, John.
Yeah, I want to put my 2 cents in here. I've been following that 20,000 rule for quite a while. I don't see a problem with the 30,000. I think we dropped the 20,000 and we go to the bid for everything. It's just going to cost more money because we have to do the legal ads that run in the paper, and the paper is not cheap to run an ad in. So it's more time, more money that way. I don't know whether there's a simple solution to back up and say, anything over 20 or between the 20 and 30, can we get it 3 quotes and then get prior court approval?
Everything is a prior court approval, no matter what it is. Isn't it, Tambra?
No,
Not,
No,
no.
but I mean, is that a simple
well,
solution?
under five, yeah.
Right.
The court has to approve the bills no matter what.
And just to piggyback on what John's saying, so we've had an issue that's consumed a big part of yesterday and today with our Microsoft Exchange license. We thought it would be a simple renewal of the state price contract. And it is under $30,000, but knowing that we had this on for a first reading, I wouldn't authorize the purchase of it yesterday because it did exceed the $20,000 mark. So come to find out, according to the master agreement or the contact there, it actually is not under state price contract. So we've been in a little bit of a tizzy trying to figure out how we can advertise that now and put it out to bid and get it awarded before our license expires, which is before the next court. So I think it was roughly $23,000. So, and no one in the office having experience on writing bids for something, like software licensing, trying to figure out who could write it and pull it together, and just the staff time between the county attorney's office, our IT consultant at McAllen Solutions, and Andrew. So probably, it doesn't happen very often that a purchase exceeds $20,000. But for those, just the little amounts that's barely over $20,000, it's probably going to cost more to have to bid it out. And what John said, I think still would give the court the flexibility to approve something before it was purchased. If it were between the 20 and 30, not necessarily have to put it out to bid, but to provide you all with the quotes, actually make an agenda item for you all to discuss and decide if you want to allow that purchase. Then anything over 30, put it out to bid, do the public notice, have the proper bid opening, which, will take up a little bit of time, but I think it's kind of like a little happy medium there. Just food for thought there on that issue.
John, thank you for your words. Kevin or Jeremy or Robert, Charlie, anybody else out there from the as department heads want to say anything?
Judge, it's Robert Hewitt,
Yes, sir.
if I may.
Yes, sir.
On behalf of the county, I procure quite a bit of goods and services for projects that are done.
Yeah.
Actually, we've got 2 items on for tonight. So I write probably the lion's share of all bids and procurements. I hear it all the time. County government moves too slow. What the work we're trying to do at the Simon House, just the time it takes to bid it out, have a pre-bid meeting, opportunity for questions, and then you finally get to a bid date, not to mention the advertisement. Well, we just, shot a month and a half where we could have been working. So you know, I was used to the 20,000 as well, but I just feel that if we went to 30, just the same as the state, since we are a political subdivision of the state, you know, I think that the state has shown that it's appropriate, and I would like to see the amendment to 30,000.
I agree.
Is there any other department head like to speak up on either way? Okay, Squires?
Susan.
Okay, Susan, go ahead.
I would thank you, Robert, for your comments. I mean, it's important for us as a county to remember that we are a political subdivision of the state. The state tries to sometimes make it a little easier for us to make a wheel round and make it roll for 120 of us. And it's no reason why we shouldn't follow that responsible pattern and let that as our option is make it be a rolling target as opposed to just a fixed sum in one court's mind. So I think that John's alternative about having some little space in between that 20 and 30 or the 20 and the state's threshold, you know, where it would require court approval for things outside of professional services would be a good fix and would maybe suit both sides.
Rick, what are your thoughts about that?
Court instructed me to amend it to 20,000, and that's what I did. If you want to go and you want to make the benchmark to be the state $30,000, that's going to require an amendment to section 3.118 and 3.120 to say specifically the state amount, which is currently $30,000. So I did what the court instructed me to do.
Okay.
That's what I would prefer to do. Mirror the state.
Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. I'm good with the 20 where it's at.
Anybody else? Squire Mahler?
Thank you, Judge. Yeah, I mean, I looked over this. I see John's point. I could probably go, but I have the 25 in my head, Judge, for this one.
Not 20, but 25. Is that what you said?
That is correct. I know things have gone up, you know, because of the shortage of supplies and prices and things like that. But it seems like the problem usually hangs right over that 20. So my vote would be to go 25. So
Just remember, whatever you set it to, if you don't benchmark it to the state or otherwise, it's going to be a sum certain across the board from now on, and it will require a 2 reading ordinance in every future court you've got till the end of time until it's fixed. So just remember your actions will determinative of the future.
Well, Rick, could I ask you then? So what John has proposed, is that doable per se? I mean, anything over 20 goes 3 bids and comes in front of the court?
Yeah, anything's doable. By that, I mean, the court has to approve it anyway. For any purchase, large purchases like this, it doesn't really make a great amount of difference. The difference is whether or not it has to be advertised before it's brought back to the court. I'm not sure, and I understand his Solomonic wisdom, but at the end of the day, the court has to approve all contracts, et cetera, anyway. I'm not sure that it accomplishes the goal, which is efficiency and a recognition of certain consumer amounts, because at the end of the day, the court has to approve it. 20, 25, 30, not to minimize those amounts, but it's basically the same thing. If you get somewhere you're about 25, everything's going to be about 25. The concern that I've had and always have had with it being benchmarked is you have a degree of flexibility. If you set a bright line, that's the line. That's what you got from now on. 10 years from now, that's what you got. It'll take 2 readings of an ordinance to amend that with a true bright line. The court told me 20 and fix it. And that's what I've done. If you want to modify it further, it's subject to the wisdom of the body politic.
Squire Moore?
What does this do to us on, where the states pre-bid a contract price? Does it limit us at whatever we set? Is that what you said?
You mean if you're making it if you're buying goods or services on the state contract price?
Right.
You can always use that regardless if it's 100. If it's under state contracts price under procurement,
Okay.
wouldn't affect that at all.
Okay.
The one thing that we have found, however, since the state has raised their minimum bid to 30,000, is they are not bidding as many items.
Right.
Ran into that at the park with Charlie. There were some things that he used to always bid on state price, and they disappeared, and it's because they were not utilizing those as much. So to cut out that expense, they quit bidding those.
Well, and the way things have been jumping around lately, if you can't jump on something right away, then it goes up $5,000. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm for going at the state contract price.
Yeah, and kind of on what you just said, as Lambert, and I know that Squire Muller sees it too. If you're in a business, if you don't get it when you can get it, you're gonna wait. You're gonna pay more and wait longer. If you don't jump on it quick, the way things are going now, it's amazing. But I see it all the time. I hear it all the time from down here, so I know you all see it as well. All right. Well, I guess what we can do, Rick, if we come back, we're kind of on the board here in different directions. Rick, can we come back when it comes to a vote and say that we would prefer X over Y, and then we come back with a new ordinance on our next meeting?
It's on for first reading right now. You can amend it and make it second reading later, but it's gonna, based upon the direction of the court the last time, the modification to solidify the instruction was an amendment under section 120. If the court wants to benchmark, and if that is the will of the court, benchmark all procurement for the county under the state benchmark, that's going to require an amendment as to 118 and 120. It's just one line, don't get me wrong. It's not going to be a major revision, but it does, if that's the direction, it's a little bit more nuanced.
But we can still keep that as part of the first reading.
Yeah, because you're still amending the procurement code under section, but it's a different section.
Okay. Okay.
So whatever you want to do, you got the pros and cons. I just did what the court told me to the last time. It's a little bit different.
We heard that.
I just wanted to remind it, man, because I was very careful to do it exactly like I was directed without any modifications on my side.
We heard that.
All right. Squire Muller, you still at 25, or can you go 30?
Right now I'm at 25. I don't know if all the other magistrates have spoke though.
So in addition to picking a fixed amount, you also have the option to just go along with state bid, whatever it is at that time, so that if state decides to lower it, then it goes down. If they raise it, it goes up.
That's where I am.
Okay.
I'd like to hear from everyone else.
Yeah. Squire Tracy?
Thank you, Judge.
Speak about it.
Obviously, I've been in favor of the 20,000 for a number of reasons, but I do like John, the road supervisor's idea. I like that little part of flexibility, and some of the issues that have came up over the last month or so. Two of those, one would have been outside the line, two would have been in between. So I like the idea of maybe between 20 and 25. That way you do have a little flexibility there. And then anything over 25, obviously do the way that it's been done in the past.
So I'm sorry. Tell me again what you're saying you're for.
What I'm saying is I like the idea that the road supervisor proposed, which is a little flexibility. And he had a little, a leeway there, 20, I think he said 20 to 30. And I said, I like the idea. I've been on 20 for a number of reasons, but I could go 20 to 25. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Squire Blackburn?
Yeah, I agree with the road superintendent as well. I think 25 would be much better. I think tying it to the state, like Tambra had mentioned, they could come down, it could go up, it could do whatever. But I do like the flexibility it gives us to be at 25, because a lot of things that have come in, I know 2 things came in under 25 that it wouldn't have affected. And anything above that comes before the court.
So looks like we've got 3 for 25 and 3 for 30. I think, Squire Booth, is that right with you?
Yes, I'm for 30. I think we should be benchmarked to the state. I mean, they have more accountants than we do. And evidently, they consider that to be a wise amount. And I know that bidding and advertising does add time.
Oh, yeah, it does.
And that is a hard thing to adjust to when you're not sure how prices are going to change.
Okay. So, Squire Sebastian, where might you be? Still at 20? Okay.
Still at 20. I think the transparency is the key thing for me. Thank you.
Okay. Squire Moore, can you go to 25?
No, I don't think so, Judge. I think we ought to mirror what the state is doing. Like the counselor has counseled us on, you don't want to come back and change this in a year or 2 years. Just set it at what the state is, and it corrects itself.
Really hadn't heard us, has it?
But y'all, let me just address that what Squire Sebastian said, and I'm not quite sure what the transparency issue is. The court has to approve all the purchases and contracts no matter what. So there's nothing done under the table or whatever.
Exactly.
It's always transparent no matter what you do. So just there's nothing that you all are doing squirrely. It's all transparent.
Squire Mahler?
Thank you, Judge. Rick, can I clarify? So months ago, I guess there was a vehicle bought, it's 23 and change or something like that. So it was already bought, and then it came to us for bills to be paid. I mean, at that point, we can't not pay it because it was already bought. And I think that, at least for me, was kind of the issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I think that's, yeah. I mean, I
No,
too.
and
Well, there's a lot of things that are already involved, that are in the budget. When they are in the budget, and there's monies appropriated in a line to buy, there's bills tonight that you're going to be paying that are part of the budget that you approve. So I'm curious, because you Squire Muller have brought this up a number of times, Squire Tracy. What do you think is nefarious about us buying a vehicle that was in the budget for us to buy?
Well, Judge, I'll speak on that. Obviously, what was purchased was not in the budget to buy. What was purchased was a vehicle that was a SUV that was actually taken out of the budget. And Robert from Planning and Zoning requested that he get a Toyota Tacoma type truck for a part-time individual. I've watched it numerous times. That's exactly what was said. The SUV was taken out of the budget, which is what I think a hybrid RAV per se is what you was requesting that was taken out. So to say what was in the budget was purchased is not accurate, because an SUV was bought.
Well, the most important thing that he said as part of that, and Robert, if you want to come back, was that it be a 4-wheel drive.
And they've also said that they wanted pickup trucks because it makes carrying ladders and so forth easier for the employees. If you can get a ladder, if you can get an extension ladder in that vehicle, I'd love to see it.
Well, there's still
I'm not going to
nothing
argue
nefarious.
with you over a truck, but I just know what was said. I've watched the meeting numerous times. You're more than welcome to go back and watch it. I've watched it numerous times. I know exactly what was said and what was taken out of the budget, which was an SUV. So that's my point.
Well, so do you not give leeway to the department heads when they, because Robert's the one that said he wanted this vehicle. It wasn't me. It wasn't anybody else. It was Robert that said, I like this vehicle. Robert, you want to speak to, I don't need to be speaking for you. Robert, did you have any problems with that vehicle that you got?
No, sir. It did satisfy the criteria. It is a four-wheel drive. The part-time inspector does utilize the oldest vehicle in my fleet with 135,000 miles on it, no headliner and a ripped seat, but he's part-time, so that's what he'll drive. My planning supervisor puts on many more miles by running plats and development plans. And then of course, he's not in it all the time. So it's also serves as a pool vehicle for this building. So it's a nice vehicle, four-wheel drive, Bluetooth, which is safe. You know, I think my employee likes it and had no issue with it.
Y'all, respectfully, I think you've kind of got a little far afield on the issue. If the concern is that was purchased and authorized and brought back to court to pay for it, that's one thing, and everybody voted on it, presumably. If the issue is whether or not the cost of it, et cetera, should have been brought before the court before it was quote unquote purchased, that's a different issue. The question before you today is what your limit's going to be relative to bid requirements. I guess you can point fingers or whatever in your past actions all you want to, but that's not the issue today. That probably needs to be addressed if that is a concern. But the question is, where are you going to go from this point forward? I've thought and continue to say that the bid requirement is 30,000 because of the language under 120. That's a whole different question as to whether or not things were actually purchased and they submitted a bid afterwards or a request for payment afterwards. I hope that distinction's not lost on anybody.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I guess we just come back to voting session and see where it goes, and if it does.
We don't vote. It's first
That's right.
reading.
So what do you want to do?
If we don't have a general consensus for a first reading, I don't know how we have a second reading.
Okay.
I can go with 20.
Okay.
So we have two. Here's what I have. I have Squire Sebastian and Squire Tracy at 20,000. I have Squire Moore, Squire Booth, and Judge Wells at the state limit. And I have Squire Muller and Squire Blackburn at 25. So we have a majority for it to go to the state limit.
But we don't have 4. We got the majority of it to go to the state.
Right.
Okay.
So you have to have 4 for it to pass. But currently just polling the court.
We have a few weeks to think about it and work on it, I guess.
Can you amend it at the second reading, Rick?
I'm sorry. Give me just a second. Possibly, but the problem is, again, I don't know what's to be amended to. When you have a second reading, you have to give notice to the public so they can comment on whatever you're going to do. The issue that rose was this perceived inconsistency. You're gonna, at some point, the court's at some point gonna have to give me some direction so I can draft a certain thing with a certain amount to come back and vote accordingly, either up or down. It needs to be fixed. If for no other reason, just for complete clarity, so you don't have to have interpretations, there needs to be a bright line rule. Make it $1 for all I personally care. I don't care. It's you all that have to deal with it, and you all have to vote. I just need to know what to put on for the second reading for the amendment, because you all are limiting your ability to vote with clarity and a decision. So just, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just tell me what you want me to do, and it'll be legal and it'll be wonderful. But please help brother out here. I need some direction.
Well, there's not a consensus on the court to give you.
Well, then Judge Franklin's just gonna stay just like it is right now. Then here we go again.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Kevin, are you on to say something? Chief, I'm sorry.
I am, Judge, and we too have struggled with the limit of 20,000. I don't mean to tell the court their business, but what about a percentage of the 30,000, like possibly 20% of what the state's value is? That way it floats. You don't have to come back and revisit. That would put it 20% would put it around 24,000.
26,000, 20%.
26,000.
So are you saying instead of doing what the state does, the ordinance would read 20% of the state
30,000
of the state's amount? We wouldn't say 30,000, but 20% of the state's amount. Something in that way.
Just a thought.
Do you understand what Chief is saying?
Do you understand what 20% of 30,000 is? I think he's saying 80%. He's not saying 20%.
Exactly.
You guys need to work on
I was doing math.
Exactly.
Thank you, Sherry. I was doing math and I panicked
work
out.
on your math.
Okay.
Just a thought. Thank you.
Okay. Well, at this time, there's not a consensus, so we just move on, right, Tammy? Okay. All right, let's go to the next item then. The next item on the agenda is authorization to provide partial funding for the Franklin County Comprehensive Plan Zoning Code Rewrite. Mr. Hewitt, and I also believe we have Eric Cockley on the line too. Mr. Hewitt?
Yes, sir. On September the 2nd of this year, I presented an agenda abstract to the court for request by the Planning Commission for participation and funding for the comprehensive plan update. I advised the court at that time that the Planning Commission has allocated $25,000 towards the project, and that the city of Frankfort had agreed to split the remaining costs with the county. At that time, the court opted not to take action on that agenda abstract, but yet requested that the zoning ordinance rewrite be included in the consultant's scope of work. So Mr. Cockley and I met with the consultant and the chairman of the Planning Commission to obtain that information that's been included in your packet. So if the city and county jointly go through a zoning code rewrite, the total cost from the consultant for that activity would be $298,500, and it would take approximately 15 months. So based on the Planning Commission's contribution, and then half of the remaining being the county's portion, the county's financial obligation would be $239,250. I have Mr. Cockley on the line, and he's happy to assist with any questions.
All right. Mr. Cockley, are you there?
Yes, sir, Judge, Court. As Robert said, he's kind of laid out what we've done. We now have both scopes set up so that Subject to the courts and the Board of Commissioners approval, we can start the process with the consultant and begin the rewrite of the comp plan, and then follow that up with this commitment to address a rewrite of our zoning and development codes. So I'm happy to answer any questions the court has. I have, just for you all's information, kept the Board of Commissioners and the mayor aware of the process we're going through, and obviously let them know that we were speaking with the court this evening, and to be prepared that, assuming the court supports this action, this commitment, that I'll obviously be bringing the updated scope back to them as well.
Squire Moore, you have a question?
Yes. Would this change be saying that we want to change to a form-based type of a plan? Because I'm not for that at all.
Well, that has not been determined, how the zoning rewrite will ultimately end up. The rewrite's going to be based on, public input, consultant experience and recommendations, and then ultimately the decision by the court. So it is you who adopts that document.
Okay. I just, so they're not going to waste a lot of time on one thing. It's the entire rewrite, not just changing it over to something that we may or may not want.
That is correct.
Okay.
Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. I'm probably going to have a few questions here. So I'll just go ahead and start, and we'll see how far the court indulges the questions. Just the first question off the top of my head, has a planning commission seen this document just in general? Or is this the first time it's been brought to a body, whether it be us, the city commission, or the planning commission?
We've been making monthly updates to the Planning Commission on this process. The scope as presented to you all on this additional exhibit has been reviewed by Mr. Hewitt, myself, Mr. Jackson, the Planning Commission chairperson, and the mayor and the judge. We have not, unless I'm mistaken, shared the entire scope with the Planning Commission as a body at one of their official meetings. Obviously, we've let them know that we're working through this. So they're generally aware of what we're doing, but we had first brought it back to this body since you all were the ones that requested it. We wanted to be sure to make sure that it was something this body would support, and then we can go back and make sure all the other entities involved are supportive.
Thank you. That helps. Article 1B discusses additional services. Who could speak, or I guess really give an example of what additional services outside of the scope of this agreement would be, just as an example? Because the scope looks pretty thorough, but perhaps there's something, I don't know a lot about planning. I'm certainly willing to learn.
GIS mapping could be an additional scope.
So knowing that GIS mapping could be an additional scope, is that something that could be covered in this agreement, or is that covered under additional services for, like, there are a couple of sections in there that talk about the client providing some information. So would that be GIS mapping be covered under that type of thing?
It'd be my understanding that they would build on what the city and county currently have in their database. So
Okay.
I'm only making an assumption because, we've not gotten into any discussion about, additional scope or services. But, when you're going through a rewrite that's going to last 15 months, it's hard to predict on the front end what changes may occur based on public input, planning commission input, staff input. So it's really difficult without a crystal ball to know what might be included in that.
Sure. All I was asking for was just a general example, but I do know the document calls for the client to provide some input and some level of service. So my presumption would be, because I did not see GIS mapping in there, my presumption would be, and I know the planning directors talked about the capacity in Franklin County government, and likely that also goes to the city of what our GIS mapping capabilities are. So I just wasn't sure. I appreciate the input on that. Article 1C of the document, it has some language and then some that has been removed. So what were those recommendations made on? And then what supports that, I guess?
Well, Squire, if I may, this agreement that we're quoting that has been shared with the court is actually an agreement between the Planning Commission and the Planning Commission's consultant. So really to comment on any of the language and changes is probably a better question suited for Planning Commission's counsel, who is the counsel who's actually reviewing the agreement. The Planning Commission has not actually signed this particular agreement as it was amended. The draft agreement, I should say, was amended to include this additional scope of work. And at this time, once again, pending this body's commitment of funding based on the scope of services and budget, this agreement may still be amended again by the legal counsel of the Planning Commission before signed off on by the chairman of the Planning Commission.
And I appreciate you saying that, because one of the questions I was going to have is, it does state that the client is the Planning Commission. However, the Planning Commission is providing probably about 1% they're going to bear about 1% of the expense of this entire endeavor. So maybe, like I said, and I appreciate you bringing that up. When it talks about the Planning Commission being the client, and this is in Article 2A, is to provide or assist in obtaining third-party information at no cost to consultant, which I kind of alluded to with how the city and the county may get involved. Does that mean that the Planning Commission are going to bear those costs exclusively? Are they going to shift that cost to the county and the city?
My understanding that the Planning Commission is only committed to funding this project in $25,000.
But as the client, they're signing on that they are exclusively going to, I think those were the words, provide and assist in obtaining third-party information at no cost to consultant. So how will that happen if they agree to that?
Well, the city and county may already have some of that information. I don't know what information they're wanting at this time.
Okay, just want everybody to understand that may ultimately come back to us. It also talks about in Article 2B, the Planning Commission, as the client again, is going to range its costs appropriate, such as meeting space. Certainly this has listed 19 scheduled visits over 2 3/4 years. That's the period for both elements of this, as well as public meeting notices. So who will bear the cost for the meeting space and the public notice space? There's been quite a bit of discussion tonight about that. But the client is listed as a Planning Commission. I just want to make sure I do understand the level of the Planning Commission's commitment to the terms in the agreement.
Well, the Planning Commission commits to this project because by law they're required to act on a comprehensive plan every 5 years through KRS 100. Through all the comp plan updates I've been involved with, through the JLIS, through everything else, the Planning Commission wants to be available to the public. We meet at schools, we meet at churches, we meet at City Hall, we meet in the Fiscal Court conference room. And so therefore, there are no costs incurred there. As it relates to meeting notices, the Planning Commission already has line items for legal notices because they have meetings every month. Now, while Mr. Cockley and I prepare those legal notices and we send them to the newspaper, the Planning Commission has their own account at the State Journal and they pay their bills every month.
Sure. The question wasn't whether they pay their bills. The question is that, this schedule calls for 19 additional visits and meetings and meetings unspecified in addition to that. So my only question is because that number is amplified over the kind of current scope of what the Planning Commission oversees in its meetings. I just want to make sure that that everybody involved in this process, whether named as the client or not, we understand that there are potentially hidden costs in that someone will be agreeing to. So I just raised that for that point. Article 3, it goes on to say it's regarding the payment. So my question, and this may be directed to the treasurer, because I just trying to figure out, will county funds be transferred to the planning commission for this in the full amount, I guess, for this project, or will it be as the bills are turned in? Because it does discuss in the document that bills will be reviewed as they come in. So I just didn't know how that would work.
Well, typically, the process that I think would be that it would be a progress payment, and that we would split the bills as we have with other agreements and cooperation with the city, that the consultant or the contract provides a percentage of completion of services, submits that bill, and then we split the bill. I believe we've done this with engineering services and some other types of consulting services. So no, there would not be any lump sum monies turned over to the commission at all. It would be progress payments through our normal channel of bill payments for fiscal court.
Section D says that, it explicitly says that, Section D does, of Article 3.
I'm sorry.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry, Squire Blackburn, Squire Sebastian's not finished, so we'll allow her to continue on, and I'll get with you in just a second, okay?
I promise. I just have, well, several more, but they may address some that others are planning to ask. In Article 3D, what mechanism needs to be put in place to share the itemized list of work items and I guess the percentage of phases that will be completed to get that information from the planning commission, who is the client listed, to the fiscal court, just so we understand the nature of the process. Are they going to transmit something to us on a monthly basis to let us know the nature of the project? Are they going to transmit something to us every couple of weeks on a quarterly basis? It doesn't say anything about that, and that's certainly not an item for, I guess, the contract, but just certainly an item that we as a fiscal court would probably want to know.
The planning commission would submit an invoice to me along with what's known as a schedule of values. That schedule of values will itemize the activity within the contract, the percent completion, the amount budgeted for that item, how much the current cost is, and what's remaining, much like you see every time on the ESG payments for the energy project. I would anticipate it. I'm not in their accounting department, but I would anticipate something very similar to that.
Okay.
Also, excuse me, Squire, Eric and Robert, if you all would go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and discuss with them when you go back and with this contract and ask what their thoughts are and how often they could update both the Board of Commissioners and the fiscal court, whether that be on a bi-monthly or a quarterly basis or something along that line. I think that's where Squire Sebastian was coming from.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, Judge. Thank you very much. This may be a question for our counselor. Article 4B, I guess this is the way I'll phrase it. Would it be prudent that to list the title of the Planning Commission chair? And again, I don't know, I think the city's planning director, who appreciate him being on tonight to talk about this, said this agreement really is worked on by the council there. Certainly, no one wants to see anybody rotate off of a board when they're fully engaged, but circumstances come up in life. And I know in agreements, a lot of times we will put the title of whatever it is, the ex-chief or the ex-director. Is it critical to have a named individual in this other than the final page where they print their name, put their title, and sign the document? I'm just asking out of clarity for this type of agreement. Because the contract's going to be at least about 3 years.
Rick, do you look at that and have a response to that? I think that's over the directors. I think that's more of a legal question.
Question is how long it lasts for?
No,
No.
who gets to sign the documents?
No, it's not neither. Listed in the document is the actual name of the planning commission chair, not
Right.
not on the last page, but in the body of the document. And it says specifically notices will be delivered to that individual.
Right.
So, so question would be, is it prudent to have just the chair of the planning commission in there rather than putting a named individual in the body of the document? Because the body of the, the document's going to be 3 years in force. Obviously, transferability of a contract would go to whomever the next planning commission director may be. I don't necessarily know all the terms, but the length of terms, but we're having an individual specifically named in the agreement that all notices will be sent to that individual. Does it make sense to just say planning commission chair? Just asking in general form. I know before when I'd worked on contracts, we did it that way, but that may have changed as a matter of the way the city does business and the county.
If the question is it prudent? I don't think it makes any difference one way or the other. My preference has always been with the office title name, not the individual, because it tracks with the title. But for purposes of those agreements, you always read it as the person who's temporarily occupying the chair, not the individual at their house. So whoever's got it may be more for convenience and identity purposes. I can't speak for it, didn't draft it, but it's going to be read that notice will go to the holder of that office, whomever that person may be at the time notice is required.
Okay, and that's the way I typically understand contract law, but the way this is specified, it actually names a person in the body of the document, which is going to be in force at least probably for 3 years based on the schedule that we have. So I just raise it for that reason.
Mr. Sparks, if I could, I believe that Ed Logan is fully capable of analyzing this contract and making a determination as to whether or not Mr. Jackson's name needs to be in Article 4B.
We were asked to provide questions, and I'm just putting that out there. So I appreciate the conversation. If you look at Article 5, does this mean that the contract is terminated if the project is at a stage where in-house city and county staff can pick it up? I kind of looked at that and I just wasn't sure about that. And after this, I just have one additional question.
Mr. Sparks, do you want to comment on our ownership of the document? Article 6A.
It's 5B.
Oh, I'm sorry. 5B. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm reading it. So what's the question?
So if the contract is terminated, because it talks a little bit about that, and the project is at a stage where in-house city and county staff can pick this project up, would the city and county staff be in a position to complete the work? Because the agreement talks a little bit about what happens if it ends mid-project. Certainly we want to have a complete project for our community. I think the city certainly wants that. We, the county, certainly want that. And I think the planning commission wants that. So I'm just trying to figure out if we get close to the end and for whatever reason the contract is terminated, could it possibly be in a shape where we may not have to bid it out because it talks about all of the data, et cetera, in this document being the property of someone else and not being able to be transferred. I'm just trying to make sure that we are whole in this. And I see the city.
Go ahead, Eric.
If I may, I think I may be able to help. I see your question, and the way I read this, and obviously I'm not an attorney, so I hesitate to comment on contract terminology, but I think what it's referencing is limiting us, not so much from being able to use the product that they've created up to that point to potentially, as you say, finish this project, but to limit us from being able to use any of the information or product that they've provided us for this project to our benefit on some other project, right? That we have procured for this process. And that's kind of in my experience, a typical thing. They don't want us to be able to, for example, take their product and go share it with somebody else and then have
Sure.
additional benefit from something we paid for specifically that they created. That's the way I read this.
Because that's the way they wrote it. It's got these magic words and they go like this, not to use on any other project.
Right. And I'm just trying to make sure that gives us the flexibility to do what we need to do with this. But again, as our city planning director said, not to use it for something else. That's all. I just wanted to make sure I understood it that way. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
That is what it says. Yes, ma'am.
Yep. Okay. That helps and make sure that I understood that clause. And the final question I have is in regard to Article 5. It says that the client owns all data, documents, and products. Does this mean that the Planning Commission will exclusively own these products then? Or does the ownership, is it vested jointly in the city, the county, and the Planning Commission?
The client,
Rick,
the
sorry.
client is the client. The client's the Planning Commission that own it as the Planning Commission, but the Planning Commission being a joint agency of the city and the county. Yes, I understand the question and the issue. The Planning Commission would own it. They would share it for purposes of the comprehensive plan, which is the city and the county function. Does that answer your question?
I hope it's clear as mud to somebody else. I mean, I see it like you. They are a subdivision of both the city and the county, but it says specifically in here the client owns it. So I don't know if they are prohibited from sharing it because they are the only sole owner. That's why I asked the question.
Eric and Robert, let me clear this up. I know there are many times that Robert and I even remember you and me as well, would pull up on the computer what the comprehensive plan says about certain areas. So it is not, it is a document that is used by planning and zoning freely at all times. Is that right, Eric and Robert?
Yes, absolutely. And I was just going to add that kind of to Rick's point, Robert and I and our staff serve as the staff of the Planning Commission. So while we're obviously city and county employees respectively, we are staff to the client, which is the Planning Commission. So, typically we're the folks that are actually physically housing all of these things, right? So we're going to have access to those things just on a functional level, if that helps. And then just to repeat again, some of this language that we're discussing here, this isn't necessarily a final version of the document. So to help with you all's comfort level, there might be questions in here that you're raising that Mr. Logan, since this isn't the final draft of this agreement, might have the same concerns, and they may still yet be addressed and revised as we take that to the Planning Commission. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Squire Blackburn, you had your hand up. You had some questions. Hope you can remember them.
Well, yeah, I don't remember ever putting my hand up when you called on me. I was kind of shocked.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you.
No, I do want to say, I know it's a little rough right now, and I know we have an outline to go by, but I think there's no time better than to review and update the codes and revise the codes holistically in conjunction with the comprehensive plan. I believe the comprehensive plan would probably be completed before this code update. So they're going to guide one another, and I think it allows more public input for both things at the same time, and the trips that these consultants will be coming can be dual purposed for that. You know, I want to remind everybody, you know, we're going to try to find out how the current regulations are ineffective or frustrating, ways to implement the recommendations for the comprehensive plan, all these things, you know, streamlining the review of development, incorporating sustainable development. I think this is a huge deal. I do think we all need to look at it very closely. I think the Planning Commission, the Comprehensive Plan Committee has really looked at this. I mean, we haven't looked at this document exactly, and I know that the judge and Robert and Eric and Sharon have all been a part of the negotiations with the consultant. And I do know that this isn't like Eric had said, the final document, but I do believe it's the direction that we need to go.
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Robert, Eric, thank you for being here tonight. Question, I know the scope has changed a lot since we asked, we requested this. Was this bid back out, or is just coming from the original bidder for the original project?
It comes from the original consultant.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Squire Booth? You're muted.
You can't hear me say sorry that I'm muted.
It's okay.
I was wanting to know about the payment and the time of the payment, but the questions that Squire Sebastian asked helped me to understand that it's not all due at once. And we really don't know exactly what it'll be, but we need to do it. And the comprehensive plan should be finished in 2 years, according to our last meeting with the Planning Commission on the subject. And the zoning should being taken another year. That was probably the way that they looked at it. The 15 months is I think very
ambitious.
Ambitious, yes, ambitious time. I mean, just discussing this contract is taking longer than we thought. So I think that that was my main question about when the payment was due. But I think I understand now that it is in phases, and we will consider that in our next budget meeting. So that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Squire Tracy?
Thank you, Judge. Can someone remind me who the steering committee is made up of? I can't find my notes on that.
The Comprehensive Plan Committee?
Yeah, it just says steering committee. Can you tell me who's on that?
Eric or Robert, one of you all?
I'm trying to remember the makeup of the steering committee. I believe there's either 5 or 7 members we had, and Robert, feel free to jump in. I believe it was the Planning Commission chairperson. I think we had three planning commissioners, a city representative, a county representative, and the respective planning directors. Am I missing anybody, Robert? That was on that executive steering committee?
JW,
I've got it.
JW's a member of it, I think. JW.
I've got it.
Yeah, JW was a member.
All right, I've got the list here. So the
Okay.
Planning Commission Chair, which is currently Sharon Jackson. Planning Commission Vice Chair, which at the time was Jim Nichols. The Planning Commission County Appointee, Charles Stewart. City Appointee and ARB, Architectural Review Board Chair, Patty Cross. Governor's Appointee at the time, which was Kate Bennett. County Judge for the Fiscal Court, Judge Wells, and the Mayor representing the City Commission, Mayor Wilkerson.
Did we have a magistrate and a county, city commissioner on there too?
What committee are you on?
Now this,
JW?
Were you talking to me, Judge?
Yes, sir. What committee, you were on?
I'm on the Comprehensive Update Committee. Comprehensive
that's
Planning
different.
Update Committee.
Okay, so the steering committee is different than the, yeah, okay.
so the comp plan steering committee is, see, because the other steering committee was used for the consultant selection. Is that correct, Eric? So,
Yes, the committee that Squire Blackburn participated on was, and I think we've mixed two committees here, which is why it gets confusing. But yes, that comp plan steering committee that Squire Blackburn served on as the county representative. And on the city side, I believe we had Commissioner Wisman until he was out of office, and then Mayor Wilkerson took over. And that committee was originally formed for the purpose of writing the RFP and procuring the consultant for the comp plan.
yeah, so I have it labeled as comp plan update steering committee.
So the new committee, who put that committee together?
That committee was formed at the direction of the Planning Commission chairman.
So to circle back, who is on the steering committee, which is referenced numerous times in this document? Who is on that steering committee?
The one that Robert read, I guess. Is that the one?
Without going back through the document, the discussions we've had, at least with the consultant and with the Planning Commission chairperson, have referenced both that existing steering committee as a body that will likely continue work in one fashion, sort of facilitating the rest of the discussion, and there will likely be a second, much larger committee, if you will, that will involve many more stakeholder groups and things of that nature. I think there's a framework that's been discussed. Not really prepared to go into depth about that, particularly because a lot of that is from the Planning Commission chairperson's directive, along with our advice from the consultant. But certainly the intention is, when we get to the point of starting this, to share that information and make sure that the public is well informed of who's participating and how and when.
Okay, thanks, Eric. The reason I ask is obviously under phase 4, it's got a comment in there in regards to the comments from the public will be incorporated and adjusted according to the steering committee's and staff's direction. And the county officials' draft will be prepared. So that makes it sound like you're going to take public input, but then the steering committee and the staff will dictate what direction this goes in before it comes to us. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, I think the purpose of that is largely, probably I wouldn't have used the word dictate as much as we'll try to take what we've all heard and do the best job we can to make sure that's incorporated with the consultant prior to coming to the Planning Commission as a whole, and then obviously this body and the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Yes, sir.
All right, Squire Blackburn, I do see your hand that time.
Yes. So, Mr. Cockley, so the Comprehensive Plan Committee has done its job and it's over?
No, sir, not as I understand it. Once the process starts, that steering committee will still have a role. It will change a bit. And who knows, the Planning Commission chairperson may choose to change the name of it or something like that. But my understanding for how Mr. Jackson wanted to move forward, and obviously he's unfortunately not here to share those specifics, but my understanding is that that committee would still have a role in the process, but there would also obviously be additional folks involved in a bit larger committee, or at least sort of fluid group of interested stakeholders as we try to get all of the public input and everything for the process.
Judge, if I could add,
Yes, sir.
on October 16th, 2020, Mr. Jackson, Chairman of the Planning Commission, submitted a letter to both the City Commission and the Fiscal Court stating that the Planning Commission now has in place a steering committee to oversee to create a new comprehensive plan. In that letter, he is requesting that each government body appoint one individual to serve on that committee. So that's why the committee has Mr. Blackburn representing the county, the mayor representing the city, and then all the other members are planning commission members. So I'm just kind of going back through the timeline here of how the committee got created and how it was determined how many elected officials would serve on that. So just wanted to give that little bit of history there.
Thanks, Robert. That definitely clarifies it because it's totally different from everything that I'd heard before that. So thank you. So JW still is active on this steering committee.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That is correct. And
okay.
Will be until the process is over.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else? Squire Moore?
Yeah, I had the same thing at Squire Sebastian, Article 4, Section B, about the chair. So I guess the counselor clarified that.
That's exactly the same as when we have contracts and say service shall be provided to the Judge Executive Houston Wells at 321 West Main Street. And if the Judge Executive is whomever, the formal name is for convenience. It's the title that drives the whole thing. You gotta put somebody's got to sign something somewhere. But if it's in their official capacity, it's the title that's driving it. It's the office that's driving it. I'm sorry, not the title.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Cockley, thank you for being on. Robert, thank you for your help and information. Robert and Eric, we're moving forward, and this is a long process, but it's a very comprehensive process. No pun on the words, the meaning, but it is very comprehensive, and so I'm sure we're all going to be better off in the end, whatever comes out of it. All right, Eric, thank you. And then,
Absolutely.
and of course, this is just a work session. We'll be having a voting session, hopefully before the night's out. We're gonna here in a bit, hopefully. So stay tuned.
All right, appreciate it, Judge, Court.
We'll let you know if it doesn't pass. If it does pass, we'll let you know as well, too. Okay?
I'll be watching.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. The next item is authorization to establish and declare a cross-access restriction between a portion of the Bon Air Hills subdivision and an adjacent commercial property at 452 Versailles Road. Mr. Hewitt.
Thank you. The adjacent property, 452 Versailles Road, is within the jurisdiction of the city of Frankfort. That property underwent a zone change recently, and a concept plan was submitted that showed both commercial and residential uses on the same tract. Traffic study was done. However, there was some discussion about the private drive at the rear of the property. As adjacent property owners, the residents within the Bon Air subdivision were notified of the zone map amendment request. After the meeting, they had requested to meet with county personnel, which included the Judge Executive, Squire Blackburn, and myself, to discuss their concerns that in the future, this commercial/residential development may attempt to connect to county roads and use the neighborhood as an opportunity to make it to the adjacent stoplight in their subdivision. So I was tasked to come up with an idea to keep that from happening at their request. Based on my review of the plats, Carlisle Road right away does extend to the property line or the edge of the Bon Air subdivision. So what you have before you tonight is what's known as a cross-access restriction. As opposed to vacating the right-of-way and transferring that property to the adjacent landowners in the Bon Air subdivision, this restriction being imposed by the court would require any change to this restriction to come back before the court. All right. So this instrument gives you control of whether or not you choose to allow someone to cross that 10-foot strip or not, and the reasons why. So I recommend approval of this document. If approved, it would be recorded in the deed room in the county clerk's office. So that way it could be discovered during a title search. So this is a out of the box kind of solution, but I think it works great, and it gives the court control over what does and doesn't happen as it relates to access on Breckenridge Avenue and McDowell Avenue. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Squire Blackburn?
Robert, I appreciate all your work on this. But to be clear, does say this isn't in place, would it still come before court if an entity wanted to access, say, Breckenridge or Carlisle Road?
No, sir. It'd be an administrative action through the road department.
Right. So this pretty much guarantees that the members in the homeowners association and the folks that live in that area an audience with the court to help decide whether that happens or not. It doesn't restrict it forever. We could change it, but it gives them a voice to do so.
That is correct. Well said.
Squire, it will restrict it forever until such time as the court releases it.
That's a different way of saying what I just said.
No, but I want you to make sure it goes with the chain of title. It is.
Sure,
it is.
Sure.
That's why this was selected as a more solid, permanent solution as opposed to the whim of the neighboring landowners, et cetera. It runs with the land.
Right. And if we did it the other way and deeded the land to the adjacent homeowners, then one homeowner changes their mind, they could dictate whether that road is used or not if we did not have this instrument in place.
Correct. Right now, it's governed by comprehensive public policy and the vote of the body, as opposed to creating a commodity in one of the neighboring property owners to be sold to the highest bidder.
And I also want to add, the residents in the neighborhood had an opportunity to see this before it came before us. Robert shared it with me, and I shared it with the neighborhood association. And I wanted to let them know that it would create another obstacle if somebody wanted to come through there. But at the same time, like I said before, if it was an action that was feasible and was presented to them in the right way, they could have the opportunity to petition the court to change it.
That's correct.
Squire Blackburn, on that note, we, in our meeting out there and in our knowledge of that area, and Robert, I asked you this question as I kind of follow up on what Squire Blackburn just said. What about the use of golf carts or bicycles coming through there?
Well, currently on Breckenridge Avenue, there's a guardrail that blocks access, and then there's also a private gate on the other side. Due to the overgrowth, I was not able to see if there was any access from McDowell Avenue. To my understanding, access restriction restricts everything.
Okay. Squire Blackburn?
There is a little spot to the left of that gate that looks like has been used by golf carts and maybe some pedestrians, bicycles. I'm not sure. but the grass has been beat down. I haven't been by there in a couple months, but people do cross through there. I haven't had any complaints lately, not for about a year. So I haven't had any issues with any of the folks out there, and they're pretty vocal when they have something they want to bring to us. And so I don't think that's a problem.
Now.
Now, correct.
Okay. All right.
Well, I would say if it does become a problem in the future, don't we now have the ability to enforce this restriction?
Yep.
Yes, sir. You should probably accompany this action with some signage as well.
Good idea.
I think people who might be used to taking this shortcut deserve notice.
Robert, will you get with John about that and make sure JW is aware of what you put up there?
Yes, sir. I'll coordinate with Squire Blackburn.
Okay.
And
All right,
John.
anything else on this item? All right, let's move to the next one. Mr. Lewis, authorization to award bid for golf carts.
Good evening, Court. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Court, for having me on tonight to address our new lease. Once again, another 5 years has passed with our current lease, and it's time to rebid for a new one. We did that on, let's see, the 17th of September, with a bid opening on October the 4th. And we received one bid, as you can see from the abstract, from really basically the same company that we currently have. We requested bids for electric golf carts with lithium batteries, kind of a specialized new technology to get away from using up so much fuel. And as we know, the fuel costs are going up. The bid came in at $2,728 a month for 6 months, a year. It's a 5-year lease. And we do have this in the budget. This price will go up next budget year because we're actually in the middle of our ending a lease in this current budget, picking up a new lease that does go up a little bit. Next year's budget number would be right around 16.3 and change. But to get started with this one, I'll entertain any questions.
Charlie, are you prepared or will they help with the electric charging stations that will be needed for these?
Yes, these do come with chargers. We have had electric golf carts in the past, so we do have several power outlets on the back of the facility to charge the carts. We might have to add one or two. I did increase the amount of carts in this lease from 20 to 22 carts, simply because golf has gotten busier, and we've had situations where we've run out of carts available and people have had to wait for carts to come in.
Squire Booth, I think I saw your hand earlier.
My Mac is a lot faster than this PC, by the way. I wanted to ask Charlie if all of the carts in this contract were electric.
Yes, ma'am, Squire, they are all electric. Yes.
Well, I commend you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Squire Tracy.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Charlie. Charlie, quick question. I know in the past you always favored gas carts due to the design and layout of the course. Will these new ones be able to handle that?
Yes, they will. Good question. newer technology with the batteries. There's been golf carts with battery options available for several years. Even the older technology that we've tried in the past did handle the course just fine. It's just that the maintenance on those batteries was a weekly issue to where you had to check the water levels and, and just had to spend some time on them. When you have that many carts, if you've got one at home, that's one thing. When you've got several, it just takes up a lot of time. And the good thing about this new lithium battery is it's a zero maintenance battery. It's got a 5-year warranty, the length of the lease, and there's no checking water levels or anything like that. It's new technology, just like you see all these new cars coming online. Excuse me, with the electric option, this falls right along with it in kind of a going green initiative.
Have they been delivered?
They have not. They're waiting on your all's approval.
Thank you, Charlie.
Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. Hey, Charlie, thanks for being on tonight. Question, did they give you, yes, fuel is going up, but electricity is going up also. Do you know what it will cost to charge per cart, per evening, or anything like that? Did they give any numbers?
Yeah, when I talked to them initially, back when we were looking this back in the spring, excuse me, they were looking, they had quoted $40 a month for the fleet. So I'm sure that's gone up. One of the advantages with the lithium batteries are the charging times are also quicker. And then as they get used throughout the day and we pull them back in and we hook them in and charge them, some of them will be on charge for, 10, 20 minutes and then it has an automatic shut off. So I would say, safe to say, depending on rates, between $50, $100 a month, just to keep them ready to go operational.
Okay. I guess another thing, if we're going to stick with electric and the way things are going, it might not be a bad idea if, Ann had some time to look for some solar initiatives, to put on the golf shop. Might be worth looking into.
Well, we have solar at the golf shop, don't we, Charlie?
We do have some panels there, but I'll be happy to get with Ann and see if we can increase that capacity.
Do you know what percentage the solar panels compared to our electric handle?
It's minimal. I mean, we're talking, it was a small grant. I think there's 5 panels up there on the side of the building. It is minimal, just a few, $20 a month,
Yeah.
We do get a monthly report and at the bottom it says 2 trees, so.
Right. No, that's cool. I just know we added on and technology is just changing fast. So that'd be great. Thanks, Charlie.
You're welcome.
Squire Tracy.
Thank you, Judge. Charlie, just to circle back in regards to batteries, who's responsible for disposal? Or I think you said you made reference to the batteries were good for 5 years. Is that accurate? Okay. So basically the lifetime of the cart.
The lifetime of our lease or
Okay.
the lease proposed tonight, yes. And if a battery does go down, it's up to them to charge it and they handle disposal.
Good deal. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else? All right, Charlie, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, John Mitchell, authorization to renew contract with DLZ Kentucky to perform field inspections, condition assessments, maintenance recommendations on selected small structures throughout the county.
Yes, this was discussed during the budget. We done this, 5 years ago. And I thought it was time to go ahead and do it again. We're going back with the same company that done it the first time. I did get quotes on all that. It'll be the same report, that format that they done the last time. It's a very good thing, and it needs to happen actually more than every 5 years probably. But what they did the last time, we updated a whole lot of their recommendations. We did do 90% of that stuff, and it has picked out some structures that we do need to invest in the next few years that, it helped us look down the road. So very good thing we need to be doing, that's for sure.
Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. I just had a question for the road supervisor and appreciate you being on tonight to present this to us. What is the period for the agreement? Is it a 1-year period renewable for several years, or is it for X period of time?
It has a renewal option to it.
So it's for the current fiscal year with how many renewal periods, or does it span multiple years? I just, somehow I missed that in there, I think.
I'm not exactly 100% sure on that, but it's usually a one-time deal. I know I have done some contract extensions with them. We just piggybacked off another one, but and this is actually a new contract because we have piggybacked off a bridge deal one time and created the other ones, but I wanted a new standalone contract for this service.
Sure, that makes sense. Maybe the counselor can answer that, because I looked through here and I obviously have missed the term for the agreement. Counselor?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I've got that on sideways. Give me just a second and I'll pull
Sure.
that out.
Thank you.
I'll holler back at you in just a second.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you in advance. Thank you.
You can also see on client responsibility, you see John Mitchell's name in there, kind of like what we were talking about just a minute ago on the planning and zoning. Squire Tracy?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, John, for being proactive on this. Is there a timetable per se? I know it says 20 structures. You have any idea what type of a length time that they're going to be able to turn that around? I know each one's different, so.
No, the last time I talked to them about it, we're shooting for the end of the year. So
okay, great.
They think they can do it by then.
Okay, great. Thank you again.
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Hey, John, thanks for being on. Question, it says 20 structures. Will we get a formal report that says what structures were inspected, just so we know?
Oh yeah, I've got that list put together, and yeah, I can do they always give me a really good breakdown, a kind of a chart.
Okay.
And I can provide that, when that's completed, and it'll break it all down for you. It's really good.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice for the court to see. Thank you, John.
No problem.
Mr. Sparks?
Yeah, Squire Sebastian, were you asking, what was your question again, just to make sure I understand it?
I just asked the term of the agreement. I wasn't sure if it was just this fiscal year, or if it had or if it had renewable periods for, sometimes in agreements we'll say it'll have up to 4 renewable 1-year periods. I was just asking for that purpose because, as the road superintendent had said, we have utilized this firm before. This is a great opportunity for us to continue on with that work. I just asking because I couldn't find it in here, but I completely could have missed it because there were several contracts for us to read.
No, ma'am, you didn't miss it. It's not a contract of an ongoing services. It's a contract for discrete services up to a certain unit. So it's not a certain time that they're going to be providing consulting works. This is to do 20, 40, whatever. And upon completion, the thing's done. That's why it's got a termination. You can stop it ahead of time. If you want to go past that, it's going to require not a renewal, not an extension, but another agreement. So I understand what you're talking about now term. That kind of took me, that's not necessarily applicable to this kind of agreement because it's not that kind of an agreement of ongoing services. It's for discrete unit service.
I wasn't sure if there was a time frame to complete the review of the 20 structures. That's all. I just didn't know. So thank you. That has helped quite a bit. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, John. That's good. It's a good plan. We'll find out what we need. What's the next step? Thank you, John. The next item is authorization to receive the treasurer's report. Ms. Susan.
Yes, Court, in your packet, there would be a revenue and expense report at the time that that your all's information was distributed. We did obviously complete our first quarter ending September 30th. And now we're approaching then, 4 months, but we still haven't entered our tax collection season yet. So as always, we're in a kind of a cash deficit until we start having property tax collections. And those, I guess by the November report, we'll be in a much better cash position than we are now. But it's our typical situation every year. Payroll taxes in particular are still flowing in. They're coming in a little late, probably, well, there's any number of reasons, but we have received the state payroll, and I know that is our largest payroll provider. We are, for the quarter ending 9/30 that they just distributed, it's about 94% of what 2019 was. And prior to the pandemic, we had anticipated a decrease in our state payroll taxes anyway because of a change in the location of the workers vacating some buildings and moving back downtown. So once again, we have never broken $800,000 with state payroll, but and even prior to COVID, but we're on track around 730. Again, about 92% overall projected for the calendar year of the state payroll. So state payroll, I guess, in all things considered, looks to be where we would expect it to be with some of the change in venue. As far as the number of people participating, those numbers are a little bit difficult to analyze with the way they provide the data to us for their employment numbers. But our other large employers, like I say, have not yet remitted. Many of them are through payroll services, and they wait until the end of the month. And with the end of the month falling with a weekend in between, that kind of delays the payments. So don't really have any great analysis there. Any comments or questions or concerns from court about any particular line items?
Squire Booth.
I noticed that the sheriff incentive pay, was that the program started by Melton when he was sheriff?
Are you looking on the expenditure side?
No, the revenue side.
The revenue side. The incentive pay is a state program to supplement law enforcement and firefighters with additional pay. So it's a pass through that that those officers that are qualified participate in. So the CLEF benefits, I believe, I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
Yes, CLEF, right.
Basically, the CLEF is wrapped into the annual order for pay, but we do receive the sheriff's office receives a reimbursement for that amount. And then as far as the way we book it, the only part we're booking are the benefits portion that is for retirement and Social Security that we get reimbursed for. And I'll say the SRO officers, the Board of Education does reimburse us for that as well through the sheriff's office.
Oh, good.
But no, that was not started by a former sheriff. That is a state program.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Okay, Susan, you want to move to payment of claims?
Pay the bills?
Anybody have any questions on the bills? Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. I just have a couple on page 1 under general fund court bills. There's one for install headset PZ, and then there is one for Amazon for LED light kit. It doesn't really, obviously none of them give us more than just a kind of a quick cursory idea about what it is. Can anybody speak to those items just to help inform the court about what they're used for and how they come to bear on here? Thank you in advance.
Tamara, do you have that?
Andrew.
I know what they are. Yep. So the headset is, got a request from our planning and zoning administrative assistant. She's been on the telephone a lot during COVID, taking credit card payments since we're doing that. So she requested a headset, and that's what that cost is referred to. The LED light kit is where we're doing a lot of our video teleconferences. We're trying to, I know we have some dark spaces, so we're lighting them up a little bit more and trying to make sure everybody can be seen and heard, and that's part of that project.
Okay, anything else on payment of claims? All right, we move to other business, and before I open the floor up to other business, I do have 2 items that we'll be adding to other business. And the agenda will need to be amended twice to add 2 bid awards. These bid awards unfortunately came in yesterday afternoon, I think, or at least after the agenda had gone out, but it's important that we move with these as quickly as possible. The first one, they have these, right, Kimber?
Yes.
The first one is authorization to award bid to Allison Collins Glassworks, the sole bidder for materials and installation of a metal door with transom frame panel related to improvements to the building at 231 East Main Street. The second one is authorization to award bid to Diamond Cut and Core Incorporated, the sole bidder for concrete cutting related to improvements to put the door in at 231 East Main Street. Those will be in other business and will be discussed in our voting session. In other business also, I will take this time to, I could go in the next constitutional office, but I'll just say this, that a big thanks to Squire Sebastian and her hard work in getting trunk or treat the other night. Unfortunately, it rained, but I did hear the comments about what a great night it was. And so thank you for your hard work, Squire Sebastian, and those others that helped participate too. Go ahead, Squire.
Thank you, Judge. I just wanted to thank, there are a myriad of people who make any event, and they work tirelessly behind the scenes. So for everyone and the sponsors, Traditional Bank and Inside Out Design, we had everyone from the sheriff's staff. We had Richard Sandifer helping us with parking. We had the road department that did a great job making the horse arena look fantastic. Had the park staff getting it all cleaned up. Appreciate the road department for bringing out the signs, and just appreciate all the people who came out. And, while there were a light drizzle came down after the dance reenactment, many people went up and got their cars and actually drove them down to the horse arena and turned it into a drive-in movie. So it was a really nice event. So thanks to everyone who came out and helped. Thank you very much.
Okay, dope. Constitutional offices. Anybody have a report that they want to give? Department reports, committee up, Squire Muller.
Judge, can I go back to other business? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Obviously, I think we saw in the paper, we heard some things about the city-county committee we put together that the city backed out of it. I just wanted to know if you had any updates for us, if you've talked to the mayor, or just kind of fill us in where that went, I guess.
Yeah, I had a conversation about it. He said that he put another option on the table. We talked about maybe how we could form another committee and trying to do something, but at this point in time, it's that form of that committee is not going to work evidently, and so that's dead. But he reiterated to me, as well as I reiterated to him, that we can still need to continue to work together.
Okay, thank you.
Squire
Judge, could
Moore?
I ask I'm kind of curious. What form of committee was found to be non-desirable? Because that was the issue that Solicitor Ross and I were trying to formulate, and we never got to the point where the forms of the committee were even presented.
Well,
So for future reference, I'd like to know, kind of just to get me a clue in, if we have to do this again, what was the form that was found to be unsatisfactory?
or the forum.
Forum, I'm sorry, I apologize, sir. I thought you said form,
I
F-O-R-M.
may have. I can't answer that. Their court voted it down. That question would probably be better asked to them.
I misunderstood your word, sir. I'm sorry, Judge. I thought you said form.
Okay.
Apologies.
Yeah. All right, Squire Moore.
Yes, I had an issue brought to my attention just about 4 hours ago, 3 hours maybe. We have it's been a group home out on Bridgeport Benson Road for several years, and it's not been an issue for juveniles. But 2 months ago, it changed, and now it is a juvenile delinquent alternative detention facility. Well, in the last 2 weeks, they've had 2 kids or delinquents or whatever walk away from that place, and one of them tried to break in a resident yesterday, and they didn't notify any of the neighbors of this change. They didn't notify. There's no process to notify neighbors when someone walks away. I don't even think they called the police. They just went looking for this individual on their own. And in the meantime, he tried to break in a resident's house. They did find him, but this is unacceptable to my community, that they would come in here without telling anybody and start operating this juvenile delinquent facility in a neighborhood without any of the neighbors being notified. And I brought this to Robert's attention and gave him all the information I knew on it. And I don't know where to go from here.
Mr. Sparks, do you have any kind of comment on that? And maybe we could get you some more information. Lambert, if you could, after the meeting tonight, give me that information. We'll get it to Mr. Sparks and let him look at it.
Robert's got it. He'd be better off to share it with you than I would probably.
Okay. Okay.
I apologize. I don't have any knowledge of
that's the problem.
The event or the facility, which thank you, touche. Perhaps the sheriff needs to be consulted with whatever allegedly occurred. I mean, I don't know. I can't verify it.
Yes.
Get that in the loop, but I that's all I can say about it without knowing something more about it.
And we need to know if they're violating any codes of our ordinances.
Right. That's why I think it's appropriate Robert say look at that. But on the other matters, I don't know, Squire.
Okay, Squire Sebastian.
Just a quick question, and thank you, Judge. Counselor, should we reach out to the Department for Juvenile Justice as part of the process to,
Squire, I'm finding this amusing. I've now had 3 minutes of it. I don't know who owns. I know, and you've got like 20 seconds, so we're both just flung it in the wind. I don't know what facility this is. I don't know if it's private. I don't know what kind, if it's a CHFS one, a DJJ one, etc.
Right.
Please, before I don't want to speculate because that gets you in trouble right off the bat.
I have shared all that, all the numbers and everything with Robert.
Right. So I'd be glad to follow up with whomever. But yeah. I don't want to have somebody jumping on or taking it up with some agency when I don't know if it's private. I know nothing about it. So bear with me while I investigate it.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that legwork. Appreciate that very much.
Okay. Anything else? Any more updates? All right. Let's go now back to the voting session. All right, I tell you what, let's take a 5-minute recess. And at well, let's go to 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, we'll come back in just a few minutes. No, do what? Okay, Charlie Lewis, sorry.
Sorry, Judge. Just a reminder real quick about our next park committee meeting, master plan discussion will be November the 9th at 3 p.m. via Zoom.
Okay.
I just want to send out a reminder. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Charlie. So 7 o'clock, we'll come back. We'll be on recess. Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, I had a couple people ask me about the status of, and you might not know, I don't know, the status of where we are with KCDC. You know, I don't think the mayor's put anybody on there yet. I just, their concern was, you know, are they functioning? Are they meeting? I'm just curious because I don't know. I mean, I guess I could call Terry, but do you know?
Probably better that you call her. I do know that they have conversations. I don't know whether they're official meetings or not. So why don't you give her a call, Michael? And ask
Is
her.
that okay? Is that okay, Rick? I don't want to, you know, do anything that I shouldn't do.
I'm kind of curious to know what's going on with KCDC myself. I've said my opinion relative to the current constitution of that board and what could be argued as an infirmity in their ability to function as a board. The county and the city still provide funding, which is interesting. I think perhaps since you got the three members of the board, a report from the county members or a representative of the county members or all of them may be beneficial as to their functioning, etc. I don't think there's anything wrong with anybody asking, but I think the court's entitled to some answers about how they're functioning and the degree they're functioning and the mechanism in which they are functioning.
I'll have her and the board come on if you want at our next meeting. Do you want to call her, Michael? Do you want to call her, Michael?
It doesn't matter. I don't know. Rick kind of jumped in here, so I don't want to do anything. I should. Rick, does it need to be formal or anything? Or
well, I mean, this is not going to sound the way. I mean, we have ex officio members of this court on that board who can perhaps apprise the court as well. And I think the judge serves in that function.
I do, but he asked to speak. We wanted to know if he could talk with Terry Bradshaw, and so I said that I can't apprise them exactly, but it would be better for her to present how they're doing it.
That's one way of doing that. Yep. Yeah.
Squire Sebastian.
I just have a question based on the counselor's comment that it was interesting that the city and the county are still providing funding. Does that mean we should not be?
We jumped right off the cliff on that one. No, my point was and has always been that the board continues at KCDC as an entity continues to function, and the county and the city never terminated funding. But they've got a board that, under the terms of the ordinance, does not have a quorum to, for example, pay bills. I don't know how that's being done, how to approve bills. I don't know how they're functioning. I don't know their corporate layout. I know that if you did not have a quorum here for the county, you could not have paid the bills. You could not have engaged in the meeting. So that is an issue, and I think they're very much. I hope they're very much aware of it. That's why the concern has been about how it's working. I mean,
so I guess that when you said it's interesting, should we not be giving them a quarterly allotment since they can't? I'm trying to make sure I use the right words that you just used, that they can't function and pay bills, right?
Well, you're inserting one. You're using that nasty word shouldn't. I don't have an advice as to shouldn't. I don't frankly know how they're doing it though mechanically, and I know that occurs if you believe it's prudent to take a look at the funding. And I think maybe I don't know. I've got some concerns about how things are shaking down on it. But I know that those facts or those events continue to occur. They still have to keep the lights on. They still have to do those things. They still have to function as an entity. You can't just abandon it and expect it to function. I just don't know how they're doing it.
Well,
And it's not,
we are still getting
I just don't
reports
know how
from the director. I know Terry's doing emails. I'm getting reports. You all are getting those same reports. We saw that, Squire Sebastian, you were interested in knowing about the Central Kentucky Association and where the
Yeah.
funds came from. And
This
her
that-
report showed us that it was coming from businesses that paid for it. And so we do know that there is functionality going on in some respects.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Judge. So, you know, I have a subscription to the Herald Leader, and there was an article in the Herald Leader that discussed a regional approach, and it said that it had started back in 2004 for a different purpose, but now it had kind of morphed into some economic development aspects. And in doing so, this regional group had hired a consultant to prepare a document. So my question would be, you know, how, and it said also that they are getting funding from 9 counties, one being Franklin. So my question is, you know, I haven't seen it in the bills. I was directed to ask our treasurer. Our treasurer said we haven't cut any checks to participate. So I'm not sure how Franklin County is participating, who is informing this group about issues on Franklin County. I haven't seen that come to the court to do. So, you know, and I'm not sure what report you're indicating. So that might help.
Yeah. But we get an email from Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah, we got an
Every
email,
month.
and it had that report in there, Squire Sebastian. And
So when was that? I just don't want
it was about a week ago. Before your email came out, and I believe Terry responded to you and said, I sent you an email about that, and it was in there.
I sure didn't see it, so I'll have to go back and crawl those messages and see.
Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you.
So I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, that Terry responded to you, Judge. She was unsure. She responded to you and gave you all the dates of the reports that she had sent to Squire Sebastian along with the other court with all of that information in it that I don't believe had Sherry included in the response. But I can find that and share that.
But you did send you that she gave information to Sherry.
She broke down all of the dates
saying.
and the information that she had reported that information to the court. So I will go back and find that email and I'll share it with the court.
Sorry, and I apologize. I didn't obviously get any of this the information that you're talking about now. I'm only referring to that there was a story last week in the Herald Leader that talked about this, and I haven't gotten anything since then. But I asked the members of the court about that, and no one seems to know that Franklin County is providing that. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, now that we've passed the time for a recess, we'll take another 5-minute recess to 7:05. 5-minute recess to 7:05. Thank you. ladies and gentlemen, this is the Franklin County Fiscal Court, our October 28th, 2021 voting session. And we welcome all of you. We are being broadcast live via Facebook or YouTube Live. And we're going to start with clerk. Please call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Here.
Squire Blackburn.
Present.
Squire Muller.
Present.
Squire Tracy.
Here.
Squire Booth.
Present.
Squire Moore.
Here.
Judge Wells.
Here. Would you please stand for the pledge? We're going to be led with the pledge from Elizabeth. She's the daughter of Gretchen and Jonathan Vaught.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Vaught. I'm an 8th grader at 2nd Street School. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Gretchen. If you're watching, thank you. Great job. And I know your mom and dad are very proud of you. We are proud of you too. Thank you. And we hope you're doing well in school at the great 2nd Street School, which I went to. So I like that. That's great. Good for you. All right. Then the next item on the agenda is authorization for approval of minutes from our special meeting of October 14th, 2021.
So, second.
Well, let's get a first too. Squire Booth made the motion.
I'm not sure.
Squire Booth, did you make that motion or is it
No.
Squire Sebastian?
Squire Sebastian, Judge.
Squire
I
Sebastian.
second.
Okay. Squire Sebastian made the motion and Squire Muller, you're seconding the
Yes,
motion?
sir. That's
All
good.
right. We've got a motion and a second for the minutes discussion. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is authorization to approve the county clerk's payment of election expenses to its board members.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Squire Sebastian, seconded by Squire Booth. Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Had that muted a minute ago so I wouldn't drown out our pledgers, but yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is the first reading of an ordinance amending the operation of County Fiscal Court, Chapter 30 Administrative Code, Purchases and Contracts, Section .120, Small Purchase Procedures of Franklin County Code of Ordinances by setting a fixed minimum bid amount. And that vote will be on November the 19th. The next item is authorization to provide partial funding for the Franklin County Comprehensive Plan Zoning Code rewrites.
So moved.
Squire Blackburn,
Second.
Squire Sebastian,
Judge, can I ask a question on this?
you sure may.
Does there need to be a dollar amount on here or no?
Don't think it would hurt. Tamara, can you give me that dollar amount? Robert, I believe it's 239,000. Robert, do you have that dollar amount?
No, that's the full amount. He's
Yeah,
talking
that's the full amount. The-
289, I think.
That's not what we're paying. We're paying the partial amount.
Right.
Do we even know what that partial amount is?
The split's 239.5 each for both pieces.
I think JW
Oh.
has the calculator.
Well, it's listed on the agenda abstract.
Well, it's 239.5, yeah. It was
239.5.
Oh, that's what I said. No, you said no. So, okay. So is that what it is, Robert?
Yes, that's the county's portion for both.
Aye, that's what I
But
thought.
it's not all paid at once.
Hey, Judge, just to make sure, I'm sorry. Just to make sure I've got all my information right. Can Robert go over that steering committee one more time?
Are you asking the steering committee?
That is associated with this rewrite.
The steering committee that's associated with the rewrite.
Comprehensive plan rewrite. Yeah.
Yeah, with what we're voting on. I got it wrote down. I just want to make sure I didn't. There were two or three different.
So
And zoning code.
the
rewrite.
recommendation that that you're voting on, right?
Right.
Oh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Robert, you want to go over that?
Yes, sir. I'm pulling it back up. I'd already closed it out. Give me one second.
Sorry, Robert. Thank you.
That's all right. So now this is based on the September 10th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, which was conducted at 5:30 p.m. The steering committee consists of 7 members. The Planning Commission chairperson, Sharon Jackson. The vice chair of the Planning Commission, Jim Nickel. The governor's appointment at the time, which was Catherine Bennett. A city representative of the commission, which is Patty Cross. A county representative of the commission, which is Charles Stewart. And then there was the magistrate, J.W. Blackburn, was appointed by the fiscal court, and then the mayor was appointed by the city commission.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
May I clarify for the record the amount, Robert?
Sure.
That will be the city's portion to pay.
What's the county's portion?
I mean, the county. I'm sorry. I said the city. Wrong side of the river.
All right. So clarify, go ahead and state the amount, Tamara.
I have 239,250, but I think you said that someone said no.
Yeah, $239,250. I confirmed my math with Mr. Cockley this afternoon. So that is the total of both scopes minus the planning commission's 25,000 divided by 2.
Okay. So the city will contribute that amount and the county will contribute that amount.
Yes.
Okey-doke.
Okay, thank you all. I just want to make sure what we're voting on. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Do we have a motion?
We do. We have a motion by Squire Blackburn, a second by Squire Sebastian.
Okay. All right. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
I'm glad we're going after both big pieces of this, the comprehensive plan and the zoning code. So I am a definite yes.
Squire Blackburn,
I'll just repeat what Squire Sebastian said. This is a big deal. It's something we haven't done in a long time. The codes haven't been looked at since 1986. And I think the input from the public and the expertise of staff, we're going to come out with a great product, and I'm a yes.
Squire Muller,
I want to thank Squire Blackburn for helping on this committee, and I'm a yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to establish and declare a cross-access restriction between a portion of the Bon Air Hill subdivision and adjacent commercial property at 452 Versailles Road.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
I do want to say, I want to thank Robert this was a creative way for a solution for a problem that the folks in the neighborhood saw. I also want to address the fact that it doesn't bind the property on the other side of that fence. It still gives them an opportunity to come to the county and get input from us and the people in the subdivision. It doesn't just leave it up to one particular property owner, but to the citizens of Franklin County. So there's a way we can still work with this, and it leaves us more options in the future. And I'm a yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Well, I appreciate Squire Blackburn's concern for neighborhood associations. I think it's very important. I vote yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, and like you said, Squire Blackburn, I thought Robert Hewitt came up with, the three of us were with the neighbors and talking and their concerns about this area, and Robert came up with a good plan, and it's great to implement this plan to help them out. So, yes. The next item is authorization to award a bid for golf carts to the sole bidder, Deaver Easy Go Golf Carts for a 5-year lease for Lakeview Park.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? These will be electric carts. Go ahead and call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, the next item is authorization to renew a contract with DLZ Kentucky Incorporated to perform field inspections, condition assessments, and maintenance recommendations on selected small structures throughout the county.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Is that
call the
Squire-
roll.
Is that Squire Tracy and Squire Moore?
Squire
Tracy
Tracy.
and Moore.
Okay,
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
I want to repeat Squire Tracy's comments he made earlier when we discussed this. I want to thank the road superintendent for being proactive in bidding this out and continuing to have low cost in these issues. And I'm a yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Just like to thank John for staying out in front of it. So, yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
yes. Next item is authorization to receive the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is payment of claims. Is there a motion to deny any payment of the claims? Okay, seeing no denying of the claims, let the record reflect claims are to be paid. The next item, and Tamara, you may need to help me on this. Next item is authorization to amend the agenda to add a bid award. And so we'll take a motion to add a bid award. Two bids or one?
Okay, so you're gonna do this. You're gonna have a motion to amend the agenda to add a bid award. Then it's gonna be authorization to award the bid. Then we're going to do authorization to amend the agenda again to add another bid award.
I'll make a motion to change,
Amend.
to amend the,
Okay, motion by Squire Moore to amend the agenda for a bid award. Is there a second?
I second.
Squire Booth, thank you. Okay. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
One quick question. These are the ones we received today before court, right?
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay. Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. So the item is authorization to award a bid for the materials and installation of a metal door with transom frame panel related to improvements to the building at 231 East Main Street to the sole bidder, Allison Collins Glasswork.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
We didn't discuss this earlier, but where are we at on our costs? I know we got $100,000 that we were going to put towards the project, and the city was going to put $100,000 towards the project. And after these two items, that adds another 5,000. I was just wondering where we were at.
Not sure we have all of that yet. Susan, are you on? Do you have that yet? Or Jeremy or Robert?
I have some of it specific to the construction. I know the treasurer previously had mentioned that when the maintenance department installed temporary cooling units in the building, that she assigned those to this project line item. But from the construction aspect, we've only received one pay application relating to bid package number 1, and that came to a total of $43,361.10. So that is for HVAC and electric.
But there is $131,000 bid, $137,000, something like that, bid that the work is being done currently, right now.
That's correct.
So that 43,000, was that a pay application towards the county or to be split with the city?
It is to be split with the city.
Okay, all right.
And then I would like to advise the court, bid package number 2 is out at this time. The bid opening is scheduled for November the 4th.
Thank you, Robert.
Yes, sir.
And I'm a yes.
Okay.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Well, I appreciate Squire Blackburn's question, and I'm a yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is authorization to amend the agenda to add a bid award.
So moved.
So moved. Or second.
All right, moved and seconded. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is authorization to award a bid for concrete cutting related to the improvements to the building at 231 East Main Street to the sole bidder, Diamond Cut and Core Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Somebody's dog.
No,
It's Michael's, isn't it? Yeah. No?
Look at the magistrate
Scotty.
that muted his button, Marty. Squire Tracy, I believe.
Squire Tracy's.
All right, we got a motion. What do we got, Tammy?
Squire Booth,
We are voting on the bid award.
Yes.
yes, Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is authorization to go into closed session per KRS 61.810 subsection 1, subsection B, on deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency when publicity would be likely to affect the value of the property. No action will be taken, and we will return to open session to adjourn after the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Okay, Andrew, if you would make sure.